PodcastOne presents the Steve Austin Show Classics.
And let me ask you a question. Well, I want to ask you a little bit about Power and Glory.
Sure.
Your pacing in the ring, man, even from your green days, you were never a guy that rushed anything from the early tape that I was able to get on you through YouTube. But in particular, like when you were a young stallion, Power and Glory, pretty wonderful. Anytime you were single, you never rushed anything. Your pacing in the ring, you could hit the gas pedal, you were athletic, do high spots and stuff like that. How did you learn at such an early age the pacing that you had? You were deliberate. If you were a heel, you were in stalking mode. You were physical, great working punch. All your shit looked good. You laid it in, but you weren't crushing people. But tell me about your pacing, because I don't see you fumbling around for a bunch of shit. You everything that you did meant something. And you know, as you know, Paul, one of the biggest mistakes green guys make is rushing things. I did it for about a year and a half, maybe 2, 3, maybe even more. Did Tony Altomar teach you that? Was that a Fuji or Harley?
No.
Who was that?
It came from my kickboxing.
Really?
My fighting. It's a stock method. Like if I go into a restaurant, even today, I'll size people up in there. If something is to happen, I know if it's that guy, then I know what I'm going to do to take him out, and that's how I worked it in the ring. I worked it as a shoot, but I know it was a work, so I could turn it on, turn the jets on at any time. But my whole method behind it was to size up my opponent. And that's how I did it. Almost like an animal stalking their prey, and that's how I look at them.
How long did it take you to pick up the business? I mean, I know we talked about when the light went on, but now with respect to your fighting background or your kickboxing stuff, the light went on for you, but from a mechanical standpoint, did you grab a hold of the business at a rapid pace?
Well, some people would say 6 weeks.
And you would say?
I would say at least 8. But
8 weeks?
Yeah.
8 weeks in the business?
That I had everything down and moving, and then I started, bringing things up to a higher level. Guys couldn't understand what I was doing at the school because they didn't have the athleticism. So when I was, doing things, trying things, like the straddles, running over people like a hurdle, catching a backflip off a backdrop, just different things like that. Someone give me a monkey flip, me landed on my feet. I say, hey, listen, monkey flip me, I'm going to land on my feet, and I try that and different things. Yeah.
Well, take me back to your kickboxing or your fighting background. When did you start that stuff?
I kickboxed, gosh, damn, I don't know, I had to be 16, 17, 18 in that area, about 16. A fighter, Matty Malisi, tremendous. I mean, he was like a Bruce Lee. Guy was like 135 pounds. I was 245. I could put my foot over my head, in a full stretch. And when this guy hit you, I mean, you felt all of 135 and then some. I was only allowed to fight the black belts because I was taking out everybody in the class. I'd get them in a compromising position, and then I let them know that I had them, and then I'd back off. So I had to fight the instructors because, they couldn't even leg sweep me off my feet.
Wait, okay, here's the thing.
I enjoyed it, man.
But I've heard some stories of guys taking a couple of shots at you. You told a guy, hey, man, I really don't want to do this. And as long as you've been in the business, and in some of those Wild West days back in New York, or, dude, even back in WCW, those were still kind of the Wild West days, in the early 90s. So how did it come to be that, I never heard of you getting in a scuffle with any of the boys?
No, like I told you before, I think they feared me or they respected me, but either one for me was good. I didn't want to fight. My biggest fear is what I'm capable of doing. So, when I was in New York, I got in not really a fight, but we were in Rosemont, and Coco Beware said I said something about him. And I said, I thought he was joking, and he started, cussing at me. And I was like, dude, relax. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. and he punched me in the face. And I stood there, and for me, if I punch you in your face, Steve, and you don't go down, chances are I'm going to apologize to you and tell you I'm sorry. I don't know what happened, where it came from, because if I can't take you out, I hit you like that, I got to figure you're tough, man, So he punched me in my face, and I told him, listen, dude, I said, I don't want to fight. I said, I don't want to get fired. I said, so please, enough. So he punched me 2 more times in the face. And I'm like, you know what? I got to stop this guy before, I don't want to hurt him. So I just grabbed him and kind of tucked his head by my side, put my arm over his head and tucked it by my side. And then I'm standing there, and I feel him biting me. I'm like, this son of a bitch is biting me. And I'm that calm about the whole thing. I mean, I'm trying to stay as calm as possible. So I said, well, let me, pull him down. If I could pull him down, then I could just kind of, hold him down. So when I went to pull him, I just slipped, and I ended up on my back, and he was on top of me. And I said, all right, well, we got to take this out of, we got to get him off, because this is not a good position to be in. So I got him off me. And he's like, I'm going to kick your ass. And I'm standing there saying to myself, you just punched me 3 times in the face. You can't kick my ass. What is it you're not getting? So I gave him a quick bip with a left, and it stopped him. It just stopped him in his tracks. And Lanza jumped in, and I was trying to keep Lanza in between us. So then, he starts crying, I'm going to go to the office, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, here goes my job. This guy's going to bitch. They're giving him the push. So then I said, well, you know what? I'm going to get fired. What the hell? So I went downstairs to where he had his own room. And I knocked on the door, and he said, who is that? I said, it's Romo. Open up. I'm going to kick the shit out of you. So he goes, fuck off. I'm going to the office tomorrow. I said, open up the door, and I threw in a few choice words. I said, I'm going to beat the living shit out of you, dude. Open up the door, man, So he's like, no, go away. So I walked away. Pat grabbed me the next day and said, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, what's up? He says, I heard you got in a fight last night. I said, I didn't get in a fight. And he looked at me startled. I'm like, what do you mean you get in a fight? I said, I didn't get in a fight. You got in a fight with Coco last night. I said, no, I didn't, Pat. I said, Coco punched me 3 times in the face. I said, but I don't consider that fighting. I didn't really hit him back. So he looked at me dumbfounded. He's like, well, I guess. I said, yeah. I said, so you know what? I don't think there's anything to talk about, because I didn't fight him. So he let me go, which is fine. Yeah. And then we got on a plane, probably a week or 2 later, and Coco's sitting in the back, and I went walking back there. And the boys were like, oh, shit, here it goes, right? And I walked back, and he looks up at me, he goes, hey, man. He goes, sorry about that. And I said, about what? He goes, what happened in Chicago? I said, that's all right, dude. There's nothing you could do to hurt me. And then I just walked away and sat down. I figured that would, get him riled up, but nah, he wouldn't jump. So, no big deal. But anyway, yeah, I'm just afraid of, what I could do to somebody. I know how, disturbed I get. I know what kind of punches I can take, especially from kickboxing. I mean, they give you those kicks in the head and the face, and you just keep coming. And that's why I had to fight the instructors, because, I had 4 friends that joined the class with me, and they wouldn't fight me. And 2 of them were cops, and they would not fight me.
Are you an MMA fan?
Not a great fan of it. Once in a while I'll watch it if it's on, late night.
So it was your idea to come up with Power and Glory?
Yes.
Because they weren't doing nothing with you. They weren't doing nothing with Ray. So you run this idea by them, and then you pitch it to the office.
Yep.
I remember when you guys hooked up, because you had a great look, because I like Ray when he was Hercules. I liked you from your work. And then to me, Young Stallions was good, because I remember you guys are an athletic, good-looking tag team. I didn't know about Jim's issues, whatever. Y'all disappear. But I thought when you guys come up with Power and Glory and going back, I think WWF missed out on a major run with you guys, because they did some good. Y'all did some good things with some good people. But to me, y'all were a main event, high-level tag team that they should put the gas pedal to. Do you feel the same way?
Without a doubt. Even the Hart Foundation said it. He said, there's nobody better than you guys. Bret Hart told me one day, he goes, you guys are great. You're the best tag team I've ever seen. And he goes, it's a shame they're not giving you a push. we beat the Hart Foundation in Nassau Coliseum for the belts. And then they immediately took the belts away from us and said, that we cheated. That was obviously the angle. It was deafening in that place. The people cheered, and I turned to Ray and I was like, "Holy shit, man!" I said, "You hearing this?" I said, "They're cheering us. We're the fucking heels. They're cheering us. They're cheering us over the Hart Foundation, dude." I said, "We're over, man." And then they took the belts, and Ray looks at me and he says, "You'll never see those belts again." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "We'll never see those belts again." And he was right.
Why do you think that was? What was it?
I think that I created power and glory, and the office didn't. That's what I think. That's just my opinion. I think that Vince, like he did with Luger, he'll pour $1 million, $100 million, whatever he needs to do to get somebody over, and he wants to make it work. Not that he could with Luger because he just didn't have any charisma, but that's another story. But he didn't create us. And we were over. I said, why don't we get Power and Glory shirts? And he said, heel stuff doesn't sell. And I said, okay. I said, well, I'll tell you what, Vince, how about if I bankroll it and Ray and I keep the money from what we sell? And he goes, well, let me think about it. And then that was it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, we had a good run. I mean, not a great run.
No, it wasn't a great run, but they didn't put the gas behind you. The run was what it was, but by all accounts, with the combination, the chemistry that you guys had together, him the power guy, you the finesse guy, the move guy, the good-looking guy, he's the heater, strong. Dude, it was just a perfect combination. And with your athletic ability, you hit the gas pedal. I mean, and Ray could do great dynamic stuff anyway. But I just thought that it was a great tag team that it was one of those things that could have been a lot greater than what it was if they'd have just lit it up. You brought up a name, Lex Luger. Were you there for the whole Lex Express?
No, I wasn't.
Well, what happened? You brought that name up. A lack of charisma. What was his problem when he went to New York?
I never spoke to anybody after that, as far as, what was going on and, why this wasn't working, why that wasn't working. He didn't have it. He just, you have it. He didn't have it. Vince could put $1,000 behind you and he can get you, he could get you over. You can get over. You're likable. You have a personality. Baby face, heel, it doesn't matter. People are going to love you. They're going to hate you. They're going to love to hate you. Luger didn't have that. He was just that guy. He wasn't he wasn't a good looking guy. I'll tell you if a guy's good looking. He wasn't a good looking guy. He was a big man, decent body, but he had no charm. And no matter how much money Vince put behind him, it didn't matter.
He really had a hard time connecting with the people. I think when he was down there in World Championship Wrestling, working with Flair every night, Jesus Christ, I don't know, was that 88 or whenever it was? I can't remember. It's been so long ago. Or was it later? It might have been 88. Yeah, it was in that era. But, I mean, working with Flair for 2 years, and Flair got him over about as high as he was going to get over. And then I remember him leaving. I remember his whole run there. I watched it from afar. And then I remember when he went to New York, and I was going to wonder what they were going to do with him. But, I'm not speaking badly of the man or talking behind his back, but, Ric Flair got him over down in WCW, but, that was what Ric Flair did. And he came to New York, and, man, they built that Lex Express, and they really bankrolled him, and he just couldn't, going back to trying to play this podcast for your students, he really couldn't identify, or the people, in my opinion, couldn't identify with who or what he was. Whether, you're working heel, Paul, or whether you're working baby, you've got to establish a relationship with that crowd. You're not selling yourself, but you're trying to get over in the form of love or hate. And he to me, he generated neither.
Yeah, he doesn't have that it factor. He just doesn't have it. again, people think that I hate Ric Flair. I don't hate Ric Flair. I try to tell people, they ask me, how was it, work as a horseman? I said, it was very confusing. When I was with Arn, everything was fine. When Rick stepped into the picture, he confused the hell out of me. We don't do this. We do that. We don't do that. We don't do this. We don't do that. And after a while, I was like, you know what? I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. You don't do this. You don't do that. You're picking on petty shit. You want me to go out there and beat the shit out of somebody? I can do that. Is that what you guys want? Well, no. Well, then what do you want? Well, we're not heels and we're not baby faces. Okay. And we don't do this. And we don't do that. If you're going to do that, do that. It is what it is.
Hey, man, well, okay, let's come back to that. But let's close out WWF. Why did you leave the WWF?
We were in France, Ray and I, and they were putting us in single matches. So I went up to Pat Patterson. I said, hey, Pat, what's going on, man? I said, you're splitting Ray and me up. Like, you're beating my big man out there, and you beat my big man. We're no good anymore. So he goes, oh, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I said, well, I am worried about it, Pat. I said, because, what the hell? Why are we doing singles? Well, we're going to do some stuff. Don't worry, though. We're going to take care of you. I said, well, take care of me. I said, well, what about Ray? Well, he'll be okay. I said, he'll be okay. Okay doesn't work for me. I said, you're splitting us up. This is bullshit. I said, you know what, Pat? I'm done. And he goes, what? I said, I'm done. I had enough of this. So he goes, no, listen, you're going to be going home tomorrow. Think about it. I said, no, think about it. I'm telling you right now, I'm done. So I walk. So I go into Vince's office after I get back to the States. I sit down with him. I tell him. He got all heated. I told him, I said, I gave my balls to you, man. I said, nobody worked as hard as I worked with the injuries that I had. I said, now you got guys that get a hangnail, they're out for a week. And then Vince started screaming, I took care of you. I said, you took care of me. I said, I could have lost my arm in that WrestleMania. And I still went out there because you begged me to go out there because we were wrestling against Demolition. I said, Ray had a torn groin. He re-tore it the night before. He could hardly move. I said, my elbow, they told me in the hospital I could lose it if I land on it, yet I still went out there for you. You took care of me? You do shit for me. So he swelled up, then started swelling up. And I said, you better sit your ass down. I ain't fucking playing with you. And he was at the other end of the table. I said, I'm done. I said, so have a good life, basically, on my way. Walked out the door, never looked back. That was it.
Goddamn. What was the deal with your arm? What was the arm injury?
I messed up my elbow. So I went to the hospital, and they said, listen, if you land on this elbow, there's a good chance you could lose your arm. And I was like, okay. So I went back, obviously my arm in a sling that they put it in. And Vince was in a meeting, and they called him out of it. And he saw me in the sling, and he's like, what the hell is this? And I said, I got to talk to you, man. And I told him what they told me. And he was like, please, Paul, please, I need you in this match. That's why they cut the Demolition match down to like 1 minute. Because we were both a mess. And then they're like, can you take that off his shoulders? And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, I guess. So I went out and bought a rollerblade or a skater's elbow pad. We padded it all up, put it on my arm, took the bump, tried to land a little, cockeyed, so I won't land on the arm. And then when I got back to the locker room, they had a doctor waiting, and he took 30 cc's of fluid out of my elbow. He says, I don't take 30 cc's out of a knee, and I took 30 cc's out of your elbow. And I was like, well, we made it through, man, so that was it. Then I went to TV like a day or two later in Vegas, and I walked in, they're like, yeah, you're not working. Just go relax somewhere.
So what ultimately was the case with the elbow?
I don't know. I mean, it healed, whatever the hell it was.
Okay, so you let me ask you this. You go out of the door of the WWF. You walk into the doors of WCW. You call them, they call you.
I was watching TV. I was watching wrestling, and I looked up at the screen, and I said, you know what? This is bullshit. I belong there. meaning working. So I called Janie Engel.
Yep.
And she answered the phone anyway. I didn't know who she was then, I told her who I was, and I said I was interested in coming in. So she said, okay. And I got a call from, I don't remember his name, and he said, this is so-and-so. And I said, yes, I know who you are. And he said, we'd like to bring you in, and we'd like to make you a horseman. And I was at my gym at the time, and behind the counter. And I said, okay. He says, and, this is what we're going to give you. And I said, okay. He goes, no, I don't think you understand. And I said, no, I understand. He goes, no, I don't think you do. See, we're going to make you a horseman, and this is what we're going to pay you. And you're good with it? And I said, yes, I'm good. Yeah, I don't think you quite understand. I said, I understand. Because what they thought was they were giving me a little bit of money.
Right.
But being, like you, a businessman, I figured, because they told me, listen, you're only going to work like once or twice a month. But I knew if they were making me a horseman, I was going to be working more than once or twice a month. I had to be. So that money was going to compound, exponentially. So that's what I did. I went down there. Nobody knew. Dusty talked to me. It was an ultra kayfabe. When I walked into Atlanta, into whatever that building was, people looked like they saw a ghost when I walked through that door, man. And then I walked out to the stage, and Dusty looked at me, and I said, hey, Dust. He goes, Paul, Paul Roma. He goes, yeah, baby, come over here. Give me a hug. Give me some love. So I walked over, give him a big hug. He goes, Pretty Paul. You know what? That's what I'm going to call you. Pretty Paul Roma. And that's what he called me. Pretty Paul Roma.
So what was the deal with the Horseman? Some people said that you didn't fit in, or it was some people's take that you didn't like being a horseman. What was it? Because you just laid down 10 minutes ago a bunch of rules that say, we don't do this, we do this, we don't do that. And they kind of, I don't know, there's a bunch of rules being laid down there, what you do and you don't do. And I heard you on another interview say, like, hey, man, when the boss says, or the powers that be, we want you to be a horseman, what are you going to do? Say, no, I don't want to be a horseman. Hey, that's a pretty good gig. Or you're going to be the world champion. No, I don't want to be the world champion. So you get handed this gig. What are you supposed to do? Turn it down or say yes? Because you're looking to cross into a different promotion. So you're a horseman. Excited about it before you meet everybody, or you probably pass by them if they came through WWF. But what was the story on your first entrance in? Heat, no heat, ambivalent? They brought you in with open arms? What was the fucking story? Because I hear so many conflicting things.
Well, I mean, I went in there happy, going to be a horseman. Obviously, Dusty welcomed me with open arms. Ole Anderson grabbed me, pulled me in a little room and said, hey, listen, man, he goes, they told me that, you're a good worker. We want to put women in the seats. You're a good looking guy, you got a good body. So, goes, I don't know. They say you're a good worker, but I've never seen you work. And right off the rip, I said to myself, you know what? I think this guy's full of shit. I mean, how could you bring somebody in? You don't know how he works. You've never seen him work. Come on, man. You pulling my chain, I'm saying to myself. So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this guy's an asshole. I don't get along with him because he's already lying to me. I just got to assume that. Is it wrong to assume? Yeah, but you know what? Come on. You don't look at the product before you bring it in? I find that really hard to believe. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So now I go over, I put my tuxedo on, and they announced me, and obviously, these people don't want me. I'm from WWF. They don't want me. I don't fit down south, whatever. I don't give a shit what they want. I'm going out there, so I go. And Rick lays down this speech that was the best of the best. I mean, him and his mouth. He's phenomenal. And I come into the room, and they're all there, and it looked to be okay. And then afterwards, it seemed to be all right, especially with Arn. Arn took me in, with open arms, invited me to his home, which I thought was great. And but when he got around Rick, or Rick got around him, all three of us were together. It was a different story. It was a different picture. I started noticing when we went out, I started getting, more attention than Rick did. And I think that bothered him. I don't know. I mean, I could say whatever. What's the truth? I don't know. I just believe that to be. I just saw some, I don't know, jealousy, animosity. He's not the dog anymore. Got a young stud in town. You know what I mean? Definitely better looking than you. Definitely better built than you. So now what? What do you do? How do you keep promoting you? So, like I said, Arn and I thought we got along just fine. Did we gel body-wise? No. We were frickin' frack, let's face it. We're definitely...
What was the feeling in WCW versus WWF? Just
laid back.
Laid back?
Laid back. Oh, yeah. So? No stress. WWF, you're like high-intensity stress.
Well, everybody's bucking for a spot. Why then in WCW did you feel like no stress?
I don't know. I just didn't feel like, anybody was gunning for you. In WWF, you just, from the office people down, somebody's always looking to set someone else up. Get them to say something. Open up a spot for the new guy. It's always something going on. And WCW wasn't like that. You just sat there and, you played cards and everybody joked and got along. Yeah, it was definitely different.
Was it because of guaranteed money, do you think? Because, when you came in WCW, when I came there in 92, 91, whenever I went over there, after I just broke into business for a year and a half in USWA, they called me up and talked to Dusty, and they brought you in for X amount of dollars the first year, and your second year you'd probably double that. And so, it was guaranteed money. But you still had to earn your spot on the card. In WWF, I mean, nothing was guaranteed, nothing. You just signed a contract, but that was it. So, right. I mean... Dude, it was like the Wild West back then. I mean, dude, the higher you are on the card, the more money you're going to make. And so
oh, yeah.
I just think that breeds competition in and of itself, and you always want to try to get to the top. But maybe that was it, just because, you still had to work for your spot. But
I could tell you one thing. I was in the ring with Brutus Beefcake when I first started out. We're doing TV, and I grabbed, a headlock on him. And when he came back to the locker room, one of my buddies that I went up there with had said, come here, I want to tell you something. I said, what's up? He goes, Hogan just gave Beefcake a bunch of shit. And I said, what's that have to do with me? He goes, well, he was telling Beefcake he better get into the gym because you were making him look really bad in there. I'm like, oh, great. Just what I need, right? I need this guy to be pissed at me because, he looks like shit and I work out. Not my fault, but again, that's the problem. That guys were in WWF. They were gunning for your spot. They were worried about their spot. There were a bunch of insecure people, but not the old timers now. Not the old timers. The Fujis and the Harley races. They just weren't. Those guys weren't worried about their spots. It seemed more like the young guys. Always worried. It was crazy.
Then looking back at just the atmosphere of the locker rooms, which run did you prefer? What happened in WWF or what happened down there in WCW? Not according to your push, but just the atmosphere.
I think the WWF. You know why? Because it had to do with partners. I ran with Ray. I ran with SD Jones. You know what I mean? I had great runs as far as friendship runs with these people. Yeah, so when I went down to WCW, until I hooked up with Orndorff, when he walked up to me and said, hey, I think you're going to, he did, like he said, he comes up in my face like, hey, I think you're going to put us together. I'm like, oh, that's great. He goes, you like that? And I said, well, yeah. He goes, oh, I'm so glad that you told me you liked it. And I said, yeah, dude, are you kidding me? Me and you together? Absolutely. He goes, got to come up with a name for us. So I said, well, just give me a minute, man. Let me think, So he walks away, and all of a sudden he walks by me, and I go, holy shit, I got it, man. And so I go, come here, I got our name. He goes, what? I said, well, you're wonderful, right? Wonderful. He goes, yeah. And I'm Pretty Paul, right? He goes, yeah. I said, we're pretty wonderful. He goes, I love it. He goes, ooh, I love it. Let's go tell the agent now. So we ran in and told the agent, and that's the name we went with.
How'd you like hanging around, Paul?
Oh, he's tremendous. He's aces, man. I love his hunting stories. Just the family guy that he is, stand-up guy that he is. You hand him something. You don't have to worry about him, taking it from you. It's a rarity, man, when you find, the chosen few people that you could actually put your life. Give them your life and say, will you take care of this for me? And it's going to be there when you get back.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. But that was Paul, stand-up guy. If Paul shook your hand and looked in your eye, told you something, that was it. End of story. That's how it was. Whether it's good, bad, and different. If Paul told you something, he would tell you to your face, and that's how it was. He was a total man of his word.
Yep. He sure was, man. He sure was.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Hey, it's Adam Carolla from The Adam Carolla Show. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch and bet on games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball as well. BetOnline has NHL, MMA, and championship boxing, all your betting needs in one place. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. So have some fun. Make these games and these events and these combat sports a little more interesting with BetOnline. BetOnline. The game starts here.
Steve Austin. Unleashed.
Hey, what was the deal? I was watching some of your stuff on YouTube. You got to give me the Alex Wright story. Because here's the thing, I'd been watching. I watched that match, and I remember that was one of the. He was part of the promo I cut when I went to ECW, and so I started watching a bunch of other guys have matches with him, and they were really trying to push this kid through the moon. And I saw the match you had with him, and was that the reason you got fired from WCW or not?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what was your attitude going to the ring?
Well,
let's just start off with the match instructions and how you took all this. Well, what went down?
Okay, well, what led up to it? So the agreement that Ric Flair and I in the office had was that I would let this kid beat me all around, but teach him how to wrestle. And I said yes, but I'm not getting beat on pay-per-view. And they said absolutely not. Just all the house shows. We want you to teach this kid, get him over, because he's still green. And I said, not a problem. We'll set up the angle with you. I said, okay, great. I said, but no paper. I'm not doing job on a pay-per-view. And they said, not a problem. Not going to happen. So now pay-per-view comes up, and I go walking in thinking, okay, they're going to DQ me, something, interference. I don't know. So I walk up to the board, and I'm trying to see what match I'm on, and Rick comes over, and I say, hey, Rick, he goes, hey, Paul, I say, hey, how do you want us to do this? What do you want to do? And he said, oh, we need him over. And I went, excuse me? And he goes, yeah, we need him over. And I said, well, wait, Rick, we had an agreement. I wasn't going to job to this guy on TV. He goes, yeah, well, the office changed their mind. And I said, oh, the office changed their mind, huh? He goes, yeah. Okay, how do you want it? So he tells me. So I'm like, okay. So obviously I walk all the way out with attitude. I said, as soon as this kid gets in the ring, I'm just going to insult him for however long it takes. And when it comes down to a 3 count, I'm going to kick out on 2.5. They could do whatever they want. After that, I could give 2 shits. So, and that's probably the highest I ever jumped off a top rope to drop an elbow. Brother, I was up there. I was coming down saying, damn, I could get a sandwich on the way down. I'm up here. I was just having a conversation, man. I really was.
Here's the thing, because I can't remember if I had to put him over or not. I probably did, but I probably got the same speech you got. But it wasn't his fault. Nice looking kid. I don't even know whatever happened to him. They wanted him to get over, but it just seemed like he's probably a good kid, but I don't think anybody really likes selling for him, to be quite frank with you. And anyway, like I said, nice guy, but I didn't know him. I worked with him. And what happened when you went back to the dressing room?
Nothing. That's the thing. I walked back there. No one said a word to me. I went out to a restaurant with Paul, Janie Engel, myself. I think someone else was us, and a couple of the other guys. I think Rick may have been in the restaurant too. And Paul said, "Man, that was a hell of a match you had, blah, blah, blah." So I leave. I get home, and I get a call from Rick. And he said, "Hey, I don't think you want to wrestle anymore." And I said, "What are you talking about? I don't want to wrestle anymore." He goes, "Well, that match you had." I said, "I thought it was a damn good match, Rick." He goes, "Well, I didn't think so." I said, "Well, then you're the only one, because everybody I talked to thought it was great. All the boys thought it was a good match." He goes, "Well, I don't think you want to wrestle anymore." I said, "Rick, I really don't give a fuck what you think." I said, "So, end of conversation. I can see where this is going." So he had nothing else to say. Next thing you know, I get a FedEx package saying that they no longer need my services, finish out, the rest of your bookings, and that was it. Okay, fine. So then I make a call to Europe. They call me back. I become European champ. And they told me when I was in Europe, had Alex Wright beat you, you wouldn't be here. You would have just destroyed everything that you stood for, letting that kid get over on you. So, you know what? To this day, I have no regrets about that. And again, nothing against him. It was against the business. And it was to protect my ass.
Man, I tell you what, I've been in that spot a couple times, and they say, "Hey, man, we ain't going to beat you, or we're going to do this." And then all of a sudden on the big day, and, a couple hours before the match, "Hey, man, like I said, want the kid over." And it's like, "Hey, man, we had an agreement."
Yeah.
Yeah, but the office, and the heat always goes to the office. And you're like, all right, you're in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, man. I'd been working down in WCW, and I can't remember how long I'd been there. I was still pretty new in the business, but I was having pretty good matches. And I just got finished working a loop with Sting. Sting, Jesus Christ, man. He was one of the top guy. I was having great matches with Sting, and he was beating me every night. Then I was having great matches with Ricky Steamboat, and either he was beating me every night, or we were doing Broadways, whatever. But I was going toe-to-toe with these guys. And a lot of more Broadways, but I put a lot of them over, too, Sting and Steamboat. And then all of a sudden, "Hey, man, I want you to work a loop with Eric Watts." And so we start working Broadways with Eric Watts. And I'm thinking, okay, 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, "Hey, man, we want you to put the kid over." And I was like, man, I just got finished working some hellacious barn burners with Sting, Steamboat, and I was good enough to do Broadways with the kid, and now you really want me to put him over? Yep. And Grizzly Smith was giving me these instructions.
Well, I remember Grizz.
Yep. I said, "Grizz, I ain't doing it." And he goes, "Well, Steve, why not?" I said, "I ain't." I said, "Man, I've been having these bust-ass matches with Sting and Steamboat, and I don't see myself getting beat by Eric Watts." And nothing against Eric Watts, but, he was just 6 months in the fucking business.
Yeah.
And, there comes a time, not in everyone's career, you're either going to get fucked on money, and you got to learn about money. You got to learn about the business. We keep going, trying to get this thing back to something that your students can take away from it. You got to learn the money game. You got to learn the political game, or how to play your cards, how to be a businessman. And then sometimes, as part of that businessman, is when to put your foot down, because, they told you that you weren't going to get beat. Then all of a sudden they pull the rug out from you, and you got to do the favors. Well, all of a sudden that rug got pulled. It was only a spot show. It was a house show. But I said no. And the very next day, I think that show was on a Friday. The next business day was a Monday. And it got called right into Dusty's office, because once I refused, he put the call in. We did a Broadway, and that's when I got called in. He goes, "Steve," he goes, "why did you do that?" And I told him, I said, "Hey, man," I said, "I think I'm better than that." And he goes, "This almost cost you your job." I said, "Well, I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way I feel." And anyway, they kept me on, and I didn't get fired. But I held my ground, and that was just one thing that I had to do at that time.
Yep. And you know what? And this is what I tell my students. I said, listen, I'll never ask you to stop being the person or the man that you are. But don't do anything, in that ring, to disgrace who and what you are. You got a problem with someone, take it outside. Don't do it in there, man. There's a place for everything. Live and die by the sword that you're wielding, because that's what I live by. The sword cuts both ways, but if you're good with the way it cuts you, then you could live with that. I can live with the decision that I made as you made that decision, and who knows where it would have taken you had you done the job in that spot show. You don't know. You can't go back and relive it. But I know in my heart that it was the right move. And when these guys, my students, get in these independent shows, and I tell them, listen, man, you got to start thinking what's best for you. How many people are out there? 10, 20? And you're getting paid what? $10, $20? Is it worth $20 to get beat in 30 seconds by some jabroni? No, it's not. $20 isn't going to change your life. So start thinking along those lines. Where you are on the food chain. And I'll tell you something right now. I have guys, Steve, in my school that right now, hands down, can work for any organization. WWE, NXT, any of them. I mean, my heavyweight champ, Richard Holiday, Matthias Williams, House of Pain, Sergeant Murray, Big Jim. I got a rookie, this kid, RJ. You talk about the perfect kid coming up, he listens. And these kids are like my kids now. I watch them, and I'm this proud father when they have this phenomenal match, and my guys, I think I told you, my guys had a ladder match the last month. It was the best ladder match I've ever seen in my life. These guys can hang with the best of them, the absolute best of them.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
For weeks now, New Jersey residents have been plagued by unexplained drones flying overhead.
Is there intelligent alien life? And if so, has the government been covering it up?
All right, UFO sightings the military can't explain. Congressional hearings, Pentagon whistleblower. What does it all mean?
What does it all mean? We are here to try and figure it all out with our new Ancient Aliens podcast. There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Listen to the Ancient Aliens podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, man, so how long have you worked with these kids? What's the course consist of? How do people find you or get into the school? What's the system?
Well, I mean, it's Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. And I really liked, remember the movie Paradise Alley?
Of course I do. Terry Funk was in it, among others.
Hell yeah. I kind of liked that thought pattern, when I had opened up the school. I thought it was just along those lines in my brain, so to speak. So that's kind of how I looked at it. It was going to be old school, just teaching psychology and, don't take 100 bumps, take 3 or 4, that makes sense. We just landed 4 public access channels to get our show on TV, which is nice. So our website's under construction right now, but right now we have PAPW official Facebook is where it's at. So
how are you working with these kids, man?
In the beginning, probably we go over the holes and things like that 2-3 times a week. Then I start, bringing them in, putting things together, making them understand why you do this, that, and the other thing. Like I have a footprint, which is within the first minute, you got to figure nobody knows who you are. You have to tell the crowd without hand gestures, without swearing at them. You have to tell them who the baby face and who the heel is. And you basically have a minute to get that done.
What's up next for you, Paul?
I got to ask you something.
Go ahead.
I'm going to put you on the spot. I want to know if you remember your famous tagline.
Shit, I can't remember. Was this a story you told me in the deer stand?
No. This is your favorite tagline.
What was it?
See what I did right there, kid?
Oh, yeah. Hey, before we shut this thing down, what was that story you told me? Because I think you thought I was disrespecting you. We was at a diner somewhere. We was on the road. What was that story?
Yeah. Listen,
give the people a story.
Classic story, man. This is what brought us back together. So I got to tell it. So we went out to get something to eat, and we're in a restaurant, and there's you, me, and I can't remember. There were like 5 of us that were in the restaurant. So they bring our food up, and again, I got to put the details in. The background of me being, from Italian family, we always, when we get our food, we'll offer it to other people at the table. Would you like some? Would you like some? So me, being from that family, I look at you and I said, hey, Steve, would you like some steak? And without missing a beat, you looked at me serious, and you went, if I wanted some, I just take it. And I sat back and I went, shit, he just fucking disrespected me, man. I said, I offer him my food and he's going to take my food. I gotta fight this fucking guy. This ain't right. We got to go. Now I got to fight him. This is bullshit. And then somebody said something and you all started laughing. And it was obviously it was a joke, but I was like, holy shit, I got to fight this. I don't want to fight this fucking guy, but my thing is about respect, man. I was brought up that way, and here I offered my food, and you're just going to take it if you wanted it.
I didn't remember that story till you told me. I was just fucking with you. But the thing about it was, you're kind of a serious guy until you get to know somebody. Then you fuck around. You got a great sense of humor and all that. But like you said, you're all about respect, and so I was just fucking around with you. And it was funny when you told me that story because I remember it vividly. I'd forgotten it until you told me, but no, man, I was just fucking with you. I was glad we didn't start fighting about a steak.
Yeah, well, I found it out a few minutes or whatever it was, a minute later, but holy shit, what I went through in my brain, man. It's like, damn, oh, man, you know how much stress you put on me that day. All I wanted to do was eat my food, man. I had to sit there. I wasn't even cutting it. I stopped. I'm like, damn, all this shit's going through my head.
Man, I immediately told you I was sitting in that deer stand, and I told you the story that happened because I always fuck around with people. And I was down in Tennessee in the USWA territory. I'd just gotten there, and someone told me, "Hey, man, call Soul Taker. call Punisher, Mark Calloway, Undertaker."
Right.
He'd been in the business about a year longer than I have, a year and a half. Y'all see if you can get a ride to the building with him. Fuck, you know how it is when you go to a new place. You don't know nobody. You're intimidated. You don't know the system. So I sheepishly called Mark Calloway until we started talking about getting a ride. Well, we were going to be both baby faces, but they had turned him heel or some kind of shit like that, so we couldn't ride together to the building. So I had to find a different ride. It was going to be a six-man tag match at night, and for sure, because we were on opposite sides of the ring. I said, okay, man. I said, I'll find another ride. I said, just when we get out there in the ring, I said, I'm going to stretch you tonight. Talk to you later. Well, goddamn, it was six-man tag. It's me and Dutch, and I can't remember who was on our team, but there on the other side would end up being the Godfather, Punisher, and somebody else. Sure enough, me and Mark get in the ring. He had been on a couple tours to Japan. I was a fucking jabroni out of fucking Chris Adams wrestling school. And, knew how to take a flat back bump, and that was about it. Didn't know no sugar holes, didn't know no shoot wrestling, didn't know a goddamn thing. So because I had disrespected The Undertaker, he perceived me as smarting off to him, proceeds to put me in a couple of Japanese shoot holes. You know he's a big MMA fan to begin with. And this is back in 1990, and this motherfucker's got me in some kind of hold, and I'm just laying there. And dude, it's Evansville, Indiana. I remember like it was yesterday, and I'm sitting there. He wasn't hurting me, but he was just letting me know that he had me. And so I was just sitting there, goddamn, finally he tagged out, and I tagged out, and Dutch Mantell was on the corner. I was on the other corner. Other guy was working in the ring, and he looked at me. It was in front of about, 75 people. He goes, "What was that all about?" I said, "I don't know." So, sure enough, they ribbed me again. He says, "When you get in there, go pick up Soul Taker, Godfather, and give him a body slam." So I'm like the idiot kid on the playground, right? Tell him to go do something, he does it. So all of a sudden, me and Soul Taker / Godfather in the ring, hell, I pick him up and slam him. He said, we get through the match. He comes up to me in the dressing room. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "if you're going to come in there and give me a slam," he goes, "either let me call it or tell me you're going to give it to me." So I'd really pissed him off by picking his big ass up and slammed him. So we had Willie had to come to Jesus meeting with me because I didn't fucking know. So, God damn it, but you and me got crossways on that steak, but I was just fucking with you. But anyway, God damn it, I'm gonna ride. I gotta go get my ass in the gym. Hey, let me ask you a question. You were talking about bodybuilding earlier. I didn't know that you had competed.
Yeah.
I know you. Obviously, you were born with great genetics. What are you doing right now with your training? And how's your body feel after all the years in the business? You lasted about 14 years, give or take about the same I did.
Well, I got 2 knees replaced.
No shit.
I got, full replacements. My elbows, like yours, are all messed up. Lower back shot, neck's still messed up. But I can still move, man. Hey, listen, speaking of moving, why don't you bring some old-ass, over-the-hill wrestlers on your damn show, like me? I'll be 58 in April. I'm ready to tear someone's ass up. Come on, man.
You done with a Broken Skull Challenge?
Sure. Something out,
dude,
man. I'm good to go, dude.
Dude, we had a guy out there. I think he was 56, 57. I can't remember. But, I mean, that guy came out there and ripped some ass. And he was impressive.
Yeah, but he has all his body parts.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. I didn't know that you had both knees replaced.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, on a pain scale, 0 being pain-free, 10 being like shit, where are you at on the pain scale as far as everyday life?
Wow. You know what? I'm good. I guess because I got so used to, I'm at a comfort zone. So before, I'd say, "Oh, how are you doing today?" I'm like 8. Now it's different. Now, I guess because I'm so used to 8, I feel great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's screwed up, right? That's pretty fucked up. But, I mean, that's how it is. I mean, maybe it's because of my young wife. I don't know. She keeps me young.
Hey, man, I never knew you to be one to have any drinks or just even being into pills or nothing. What was the story for you? Because you kind of ran solo.
Yeah, no, I didn't drink, smoke.
Was that because of your bodybuilding background, or you just who you were?
Longevity. I hate to get into that body's a temple thing, but I mean, and that's why I think, not toot my own horn, but I think that's why I look so damn good today, and I can still get in the ring and run it.
Yeah, people with good genetics, you always piss me off.
Well,
don't get me wrong, and don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting all the hard work you put in the gym, because you can have good genetics and not look like $1 million if you just sit on your ass. So obviously you put in the work, but like you could probably eat a dozen glazed donuts and not pay for it the same way I am. It goes straight to my waist and goes straight to your jacks. That's fucked up.
Hey, listen, my wife hates it too, but at the end of the day, I do try to. I'm getting older, man. I try to stay in good shape. That's it. That's my thing. I got a bunch of young kids into school, and if I got to slap the shit out of somebody, which I never had to, I will. But when I hit that ring, when they're pissing me off, they clear out like cockroaches with the lights turned on. Because they know the shit is on. I'm going to hurt somebody.
All right, damn it. If I ever come down that neck of the woods, I'll stop by the school and I'll bring you a steak dinner on me.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to offer you any if you give it to me.
Hey, let's ride off into the sunset. Paulie, you on Twitter or anything?
Yeah, mostly Facebook. I got a Twitter account, but I hardly ever go on it.
Drop that Facebook account one more time for the listeners or anybody that's interested in the school.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, we're the number one, all joking aside, right now in the Northeast, we're the number one independent wrestling organization. We run shows every month, and they're always for a charity, which is great. It's just PAPW official Facebook. So if they look up that, they'll be fine. And once we get our website up, we'll put it on there. But yeah, good stuff, man. You know what? It's great catching up with you. It seems like, honestly, it just seems like I haven't spoken to you in a month. It doesn't even seem like, all these years have gone by.
Well, I know it, but it was just like getting that email from your student. It's like, yeah, man, me and Paul are always cool. And just like I said, beginning of the podcast, we don't call each other all the time, but it's just always good to hook up with someone. We're always cool. When we worked in the ring, we had fun. We fucking had good matches, and it just is what it is. So the real guys are the real guys. It was good talking to you, man.
You too.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Pluto TV has all the shows and movies you love streaming for free. That means laughter is free with gut-busting comedies like The Neighborhood, Boomerang, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller. Mystery is free with countless cases to crack from Criminal Minds, Tracker, and Matlock.
I'm a lawyer, like the old TV show.
And thrills are free with heart-pumping hits like The Walking Dead and Pulp Fiction.
Correctamundo.
Feel the free Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.